Good day, it's Constantine. Welcome to the recommendations video. This is the complementary part to my video how to get started with recording and music production, which has two versions. The long version, which is 34 minutes, and the short version, which is 7 minutes. In this video, I will give you my recommendations on what gear to get, and I will break it down into 3 categories, price-wise: entry-level, mid-level, and expensive. For some categories, I will have a super expensive category too. I won't put the prices up nor the links, as this will change with time. Lastly, these are my recommendations, what I think you should get. And since I'm not sponsored nor do I make any money from any of the brands I'm suggesting, these are my unbiased recommendations. Now let's start with headphones, and more specifically with open back headphones. Okay, the first model we are going to look at is the Beyerdynamic DT990 Pro. Now this is a very popular set of headphones and it's very good for its price. I would totally recommend that. The next one is the AKG 702, again a very good model. Now for some reason, if you go to the AKG website, it's insanely expensive. But if you go to Amazon, whether it's in the US or UK, whatever, it's much cheaper, or Thomann if you are from anywhere around Europe. So just look around because the prices vary a lot. And lastly, I would suggest the AKG K712 Pro. These are the ones I have. I absolutely love them. They're a very good set of headphones, especially for its price. I still use them and I'm really happy with those. Next, for the mid-range, we can look at the Beyerdynamic DT900 Pro X. Again, a very good choice. The Sennheiser HT650. And if you want to pay a bit more, you can look at its successor, the 660S2. I know it's a bit more expensive, but if you want to spend a bit more, these are a very good set of headphones to have. And for the expensive category, which might be too expensive for some, but if you have the budget, you can have a look at these. The first one is the HT800S by Sennheiser. I got to use this for a week, and I have to say I was really impressed with the sound quality. So if you get the chance to try them, do so. I know they're a bit expensive, but if you have the budget, why not? The second one, I've only got the chance to try it once, and I have to say I was super impressed. It's probably the best headphones I've ever tried. It's the Odyssey, as they pronounce it in German, or Odyssey, as they pronounce it in English, I think. And it's really nice headphones. So if you get the chance to try them, definitely do so. Amazing headphones. Now, if you're recording a lot, you will need some closed back headphones. The best budget option, in my opinion, really budget option, is the Sony MDR 7506. Next one I would get is the Beyerdynamic DT770. The Audio-Technica, of course, it is nice, and possibly the most famous one which you will see in almost every studio is the Beyerdynamic DT150. This is the most common closed back headphone you will see in most commercial studios. For mid-range, the Shure 1540 is a good option to look at, and of course the Beyerdynamic DT1770. These are very comfortable headphones, so if you're recording a lot, that's a good option to consider. And for our expensive category, we again go to Odyssey or Odyssey, the LCD2. Let's move on to speakers now. And let's start with the entry-level speakers. And for most of the monitors that I will recommend, there will be 2 versions, the 5-inch one and the 8-inch one version. For the first one I'm going to recommend is the KRK, actually the first 2, the KRK, the 5 and the 8. You probably know this from YouTube because of their bright diaphragm. Lots of YouTubers have them. The next ones are from JBL, the 305P. Again, very good for its price. And of course the Yamaha HS5. Great speakers, these ones. For mid-range, I would go with Kali Audio Innate Wave. And of course the Yamaha HS8. These are the ones I bought. These are my first pair of monitors. I'm really happy with them. I still use them. And this the price is for, I'd say, mid-range to expensive now. I would go with Genelec and more specifically the AT30. I say mid to expensive because the prices I'm showing you here, its monitor I'm showing you is for a single unit. It's not a pair of monitors. So if you want to have 2, which you will have to have at least 2, it will be £1,000. Now for our expensive category, the first one I'm going to suggest is from Focal, and specifically the Twin 6. Anything from Focal is just quality. Great sound and great quality, really, really good. But the price reflects that. Neumann, I know you know them by their microphones, but they do make some very good speakers as well. And lastly, the Genelec 8331. I used to use this at university, really happy with them and how they sound. Great monitors. And if budget is not an issue and you want to look at something super expensive, the Genelec 8361 is a good choice. They're weird looking ones, but great sounding ones. Also, I think they come in white as well. The Focal 306, a great option as well. And if you really want to break the bank, PSI Audio 825, again, amazing quality. Let's move on to audio interfaces, and let's start with the entry-level ones. And of course, as you can guess it, the first option would be the Scarlett from Focusrite. As you can see, I went with the 2i2 because I think that minimum you should get at least 2 inputs so that you can do a stereo recording if you want to. Don't mind the price, it's actually a pretty good one for its price, and the preamps are quite transparent. The next option would be the Odin ID4, it's a good alternative to the Focusrite. The SSL2, if I was starting out and I want to buy something, I would either buy the SSL2 or the Universal Audio Volt 276, which also comes with the plugins, which is a good plus, so either this one or the SSL one. For mid-range of audio interfaces, I would go with the Audient ID44 and the Focusrite Claret Plus for pre. And for the expensive category, I will suggest 2 of my absolute favorite audio interfaces. The first one is the Universal Audio Apollo Twin. I absolutely love this one. And the Apogee Symphony Desktop. These are absolutely amazing, but a bit on the more expensive side. Now, as you can see, it doesn't have many inputs. Of course, you can use the ADAT connection, which will bring up the inputs to a number of 10. Otherwise, if you want a larger one, you have to look at something like this, for example, the Apollo 8. Let's look at microphones now, and more specifically, let's start with large diaphragm condenser mics. And for entry-level ones, the first one I would suggest is the Rode NT1. This is a classic level entry-level microphone. The Rode mics are made in Australia, they're really good quality. You can of course go cheaper, you can get a Behringer or something like that, but I would strongly suggest against it. Another brand you should definitely look at is Lewitt. They're designed in Austria, but they're made in China. But they're really good quality. I would say, probably from all the mics out there, value for money, Lewitt is one of the best brands. Of course, the Audio-Technica. We can have a look at the 80-20-50. These mics are from Japan. The cheaper models are made in China, while the more expensive ones are made in Japan. Again, really good value for money and amazing quality. Of course, the AKG mics, the C214. This uses the exact same capsule as the C4-on-4, which is a legendary mic. It's just that you don't have the options you get with the C4-on-4s. You can't change the polarity of the diaphragm. As you can see, you get a pad and you also get a high-pass filter. And also, it's a bit more expensive, but you can look at the Audio-Technica 80-40-40. This is the first mic I bought. I want a good mic, workhorse. I've tried in studios and I'm really happy with this all-around mic. Made in Japan, amazing quality, really happy with that. And for mid-level, I would start with the Neumann TLM 102. It's a £500 mic and it's a Neumann, you can't go wrong with it. But bear in mind, this is a mic that has a fixed cardioid pattern, so you can't really change the polar pattern of the diaphragm. And of course, the legendary C4-on-4. Now, this is a staple mic. You will find it in every studio, an all-around mic. This is the second mic I bought and one of the mics that I will never sell. I would say that it falls between mid-level and expensive, but if you're willing to pay a little extra, you are getting a mic that you cannot go wrong with. Now, I need to mention that there are 2 versions of it, the XLS, which has the silver grille, and the XL2, which has the golden grille. Now there are of course some differences between them. The XL2 has the edge terminated capsule of AKG, which delivers a brighter sound. It's designed to sound closer to the AKG C12. Other than that, the XL2 has a slight boost in the mid-range to bring out some clarity in certain sources, such as vocals. I didn't want that, so I went with the flatter option, the XLS. And lastly, another Lewitt, the LCT640. Again, amazing mics, incredible value for money. I would definitely have a look at that one as well. While we are looking at mid-range microphones, there's one mic that I should definitely mention, and it's very, very unique. By Slate Digital, and it's the ML1. It's the virtual microphone system. So what this does is that it emulates vintage mics or very famous microphones. And essentially you buy one mic, you select the emulation, and you can have all of these mics here. And for example, this one looks like the Telefunken ELA251. That's definitely the Sony C800G. That looks like a warm audio, 47. That one, I'm not sure if it says Michael Jackson. It could be the SM7, not SM7B, but its predecessor, SM7. Anyways, essentially you select the emulation that you want, and then your microphone, the ML1, will sound like that, this microphone right here. And for our expensive category, again, we start with a Neumann, the TLM49. This is a cardioid mic. If you want to pay a bit extra, you've got the U87, another classic mic, and another mic that you will find in every studio. This has everything. You can change the polar patterns. It has a pad, it has a high pass filter. Now this mic and the C4N4 are the mics I used the most at studios. And I would actually put up both and mic the instrument with both the C4N4 and U87, and then choose the one that I want. The U87 was always a bit brighter, while the C4N4 was a bit darker. I couldn't justify the £2,000 difference between them, but it is what it is. Another good one is the Telefunken TF29. I know in the UK and the US they pronounce it Telefunken, but for the same reason that I won't say Newman, I would say Neumann, I think I should just say it with the German pronunciation. So the Telefunken TF29 is a great microphone you can try. So I had the privilege of trying the Austrian Audio OC818, and I have to say that I was really impressed with that. The build quality and the sound were really nice. So that's another good mic to have a look at. And for those that budget is not an issue, we can have a look at some very expensive microphones. And the first choice is another classic microphone, the Telefunken U47, a warm mic, an amazing microphone. Being a tube, you have to let them warm up. So a tube mic needs to warm up first. So you have to leave them for like 15-20 minutes to warm up, and then it will perform at its best. Again, amazing microphone. Another one that I had the opportunity to use many times at university was the C12VR. Now this mic for some reason gets a lot of hate because people are comparing it with the C12, which is another mic. If you don't compare these two, this mic on its own is a great mic. And for me, it sat really well on vocals. It's just a good mic, but very expensive. And why not? I mean, let's obviously add the Sony C800G, which goes around £11,000. And again, it's one of the better sounding mics out there and one of the most expensive ones. And now let's move on to small diaphragm condenser microphones, and let's go with the entry-level mics. Now normally I would never suggest an £80 mic, but I've tried the LCT40, that's from Lewitt, and I have to say it punches above its weight. You get more than what you pay. Again, if money is an issue, so if you're on a very tight budget, this could actually do the work. Now, the first mic I suggest, other than the Lewitt, if you have a bit more money, is the Rode NT5. So if you want to pay a bit more, I would go with the Audio-Technica, the ATM450. Again, really good mics for their price. And of course, the classic AKG, the C451. And for mid-range, I would go with the Audio-Technica AT4051. You can't go wrong with Audio-Technica. Another one is the Earthworks. Anything from Earthworks Audio will be a good mic. I know they can look very ugly. I just don't like the way they look. but I'll give it to them. They make amazing mics, and they're probably the most transparent mics I've ever heard in my life, especially their Omni mics. Really good mics, but ugly. And then, of course, the classic, the Neumann KM184. Now, this is not the KM84. That's, its successor. The KM84, which is a classic and one of the most sought after microphones, I think it was built until 1992, if I'm not mistaken. It's the most used mic for orchestras. And its successor, the KM184, I don't think it's as good, but overall, it's an amazing mic as well. And for the expensive category, the two that I would suggest is the Telefunken, the M260, great microphones. But the next one, the Schups MK4, this is probably my favorite mic in the world. I absolutely love this. I use them all the time while I was at the studio. Unfortunately, I do not own one, but I absolutely love these mics. And now let's have a look at the dynamic microphones entry level. Now the first one, without question, should be the Shure SM57. Now this microphone is one of the classics, one of the most popular mics, and one of the most widely used mics. You need one of those. I can't think of a situation that I haven't used one. I use it on drums, on saxes, on brass, on guitar, on bass. Don't let the price fool you. This is an amazing mic and a must-have mic. Now the Shure SM58, again, another mic that you should have, a very cheap mic. You have probably seen the lead singers use it in live situations. It's a very popular vocal mic. And lastly, the Shure Beta 56. Personally, I used this on drums and specifically on toms. And for mid-range, I'm sure you recognize this microphone is the Shure SM7B because it's very popular with podcasters. But it goes really well with recording vocals and instruments at your home. Great mic to have. Another good mic is the Sennheiser MD42NT1. A thing that I used to do is I would pair this one with the SM57 we looked at earlier. I would tape this together and I would actually record guitars like that. Great mic to have, classic mic as well. And of course the Electro Voice RE20, another amazing microphone. Now the problem with this one and the SM7B is that they are gain hungry, so you most likely will need some kind of booster to have a clean, healthy signal. And for the expensive category, I would go with a Sennheiser MD441. 50% of the times that I used this mic, I used it as an under-snare mic, and it worked really well for that. But I was really happy with guitars and basses as well. Now you're probably thinking it's $795. Why is that the expensive category? Well, dynamics and condensers are not the same. Dynamics are much cheaper than condensers, so an almost £800 dynamic mic would be in the expensive category. Let's have a look at some MIDI controllers now. What I'm going to recommend to you will only be MIDI keyboards, as I think it's the most versatile MIDI controller. For the 25 keys category, I will only suggest budget keyboards, because I think there's no point in paying £300-400 just for a MIDI keyboard with 25 keys. Now, our first choice is Arturia. Anything you can get from Arturia, even the MIDI keyboards or the synthesizers, plugins, whatever, it is quality. You might have seen me using one of these for my Logic Pro tutorials. Now this is a good MIDI keyboard. If you want some more controllers, then I would go with the Minilab 3, so you can get some pads, faders and knobs as well. Really good choice as well. Novation Lansky, another classic. Now remember, this is not just a MIDI keyboard, you got the pads. And since it's a MIDI controller, you can assign anything you want to it. The M Audio Oxygen 25, that's a good alternative. And then you got the Akai ones. I've got two. Either this one or this one, which has some internal sounds and it also has a speaker. The next category up would be the 32 or 49 keys. And we can start, of course, with Arturia. Actually, that's the one I have, but in white. Again, I would 100% recommend that. Again, the Akai, but the 37 keys. Another good option to look at is the Native Instruments complete control, because it actually gives you some, let's have a look here. Yeah, some instruments and effects. So if you're a composer and you're using these libraries or you're using Contact, it has amazing integration with the libraries that you're using. If you're willing to spend £1 extra, you can also have a look at the Novation. And for the budget category of 61 keys, I would suggest 2 from M Audio, the Keystation 61. The Mark III is as is, and if you want a bit more control, so you can have the pads, the faders and the knobs, then you can look at the Mark V. And of course, the Essential 61 from Arturia. And for mid-range and 61 keys, well, you can guess it, Arturia will always be on the list because I really like them. The Novation 61, that is a great keyboard to look at. And of course, you can look at the Complete Control by Native Instruments. Again, for all of these, the Complete Controls, you also get the extra software that comes with it. Now let's look at the entry-level keyboards for 88 keys, which is the standard size of a piano. The first one I would suggest is the M Audio Keystation 88. That is actually the first one I bought when I went to uni and I needed a full-sized keyboard. The next one is obviously the Arturia. That is the one I would get if I was starting out and budget was an issue. And if you want like a weighted hammer action, some good feel on your keys and a budget option, I would probably go with the Studio Logic SL88. And for the mid-range, I would go with the Kurzweil KM88. Now, after this price point, it's good to have a look at what kind of action the keys have. So this is a weighted action keyboard. Next one is the Arturia Keylab 88. And also, I would suggest the Roland A88. And now for the expensive category of 88 keys. I'm not really a fan of it. I honestly don't think you need to spend that much money for a MIDI controller. If you are spending that much just for a MIDI keyboard, you're probably doing it for the feel of the keys, in which case I would start looking at stage pianos. And obviously all of them can be used as MIDI keyboards. You just don't have the knobs and the faders. In any case, if you do want to spend some money and get like a really expensive and good one, the only two I would suggest are from Doepfer, the LMK4 and the LMK2. And the very last thing we are going to look at are microphone stands. The ones I'm using the most are the K and M. They are very, very reliable and very good quality. There are cheaper options in the same brand. You can have a look at those as well. But I would suggest that you stay away from the 10 or 15 pounds one that you can find on Amazon. They can't even hold the weight of a heavy mic and they break very easily. Now, for example, let's have a look at this one. This one has a ridiculous price. I know it looks good, the quality is amazing. You don't have to use an adapter to turn your mics. But for this price, you can get a pretty decent mic. So I would stay away from something so expensive as this one. You don't have to pay to break the bank to get a good mic stand. Next thing I would get is a stereo bar, because you might want to do some stereo recordings, and this is very, very helpful. This is the one I would get. Initially, I went with the Rode one, which is plastic. It's good quality plastic, but still it's plastic. It does help a little bit if you are a beginner, where it has the centimeters and has an ORTF and XY diagram here. But as soon as you get a bit more experience, you don't really use this. So I would go with the K&M because it's metal, it's 17 centimeters, so you can do ORTF here, and it's just 1/3 the price, and it's much more durable.